say something?
I said last week we went over this. Any questions about it?
We talked about the endless potential of the absolute, being connected to the spirit, which is each one of us have a spirit, which is nothing more than a divine spark of the absolute, and is our individual point of all knowledge space. And we talked about how all of that is unmanifested, and that the soul is manifested from the spirit, from the unmanifested, which is actually the I of us, and the spirit is the I am, because the I am is unmanifested. And the soul is manifested, and it manifests itself as the body of the spirit. And then it moves to manifest a series of expressions in order to involve itself so that it can gain experience in the manifested world. All right? But the soul itself, there's a part of the soul that's really untouched, and it works to take a part of itself to experience. And this is what all the ancient teachings talk about, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, even Jewish and Christian. It's about gaining experience in the manifested world. So the soul moves to manifest itself by using the endless potential of the absolute, which produce this thing we call Shakti. And the Shakti is absolute power, but the Shakti itself manifests itself through four principles, of which I talked to you all about, which is universal mind, which is the universal knowledge, instead of using the Sanskrit terms, which is prana or cosmic energy, and then a preservative type energy, which we simply call love, right? And to use those four major principles in order to build the karmic signatures of the universe. In other words, it frames all creation with those four principles, right? And because karma, meaning action, meaning manifestation, all manifestation works in a framework of laws. You know, that's what brings about the limitation. Yeah, you had a question? That's what brings about the limitations. So this framework of laws it produces other actions. It's like a domino effect, and we're talking about the cosmic energy level, which is the life force of the universe. It creates what the ancients call the Mahabhutas, and the Mahabhutas are the etheric cosmic cosmic elements, we could say, right? It's an energy form, but it's a cosmic, it has a configuration, has a particular motion and configuration in order to produce certain elements throughout the universe. And the first one is called Akasa. Akasa is described as etheric sound, right? And if you go back to any one of the ancient books, the ancient Bibles, you'll see that it always starts creation off with this supreme being making sound, saying, let there be creation, let there be light, let there be whatever, right? So in the ancient Hindu, which is probably one of the best to describe it, they say that from this endless potential came this parasound, which is a sound that we can't normally hear with our ears. It's more of an etheric sound. And it states that this sound was described as vak, meaning the initial sound, right? And this initial sound was a creative sound. And from there came everything else. The second Mahabhutas, which Akasa, let me tell you something more about Akasa, the first one. Akasa has the sound, but it's also a carrying agent for all the other bhutas. It frames a house, or let's say it creates a vibrational configuration for all the other bhutas, Mahabhutas. The second Mahabhuta is called Vaya. It's an etheric type flow of prana or energy, right, which they associated with air. They associate with the elements of air. The next, yeah.
And here he kind of describes Akasa in the same way, also as like the other bhutas as modifications of Akasa in a sense.
Yeah, you could say that because what does Akasa do? What does sound do, or nata? Because this is really the creative, is this nata, which is a sound vibration. What does it do to matter? It molds and shapes matter. So yeah, that's what Akasa does. All of it is always extending from another one. That's how Shakti expands. It has that expansion effect. The second one is Vaya, which is considered etheric air or prana. And this is an energy that has a life force within it. It sustains life, right? And it's a type of energy that preserves life and actually helps carry the signal of Akasa to lower realms, all right? Then you have the next one is TJs, or sometimes they call it Agni, which is etheric light or fire type Mahabhuta. And this Mahabhuta it transfers or transition energy. It moves energy from one level to the next. Right? It has that ability to do that. And it has the ability, of course, the ability of expansion. The next one is Apas, the Apas Mahabhutas. The Apas Mahabhutas is the etheric water or liquid. And this type of Mahabhutas, it expands throughout the universe, you can say. Wherever Akasa is and wherever all the other Mahabhutas is, you can always find the Apas, all right? The fifth Mahabhutas is the Pravitis Mahabhuta. And that Mahabhuta is a solid, it's a cosmic solid type element. And it's the lowest type. And also within that Mahabhutas, all the Akasas could be found in that because it encases them in order to express life itself. So, I just want to give you a spin on that. What happens is that the soul pulls on this Shakti power and the principles of Shakti and the Mahabhutas and molds it and shapes it and compress it into a Shakti consciousness. And then it takes this Shakti consciousness and it pushes this Shakti consciousness down through Sushumna. And there's an inner channel in Sushumna. And Sushumna for us is actually located here in the spine region. And what it does, it takes this Shakti consciousness when it molds it into a consciousness, into a Shakti consciousness, and it pushes it down through Sushumna in the Brahmanati. There's a place there's 3 layers to this Sushumna, and the very middle is called the Brahmanati. And it pushes the Shakti through there and collects the knowledge and the experience of each chakra from the Anjana or Christ chakra or third eye down to the throat chakra, to the heart chakra, to the solar plexus chakra, to the sex chakra, all the way down to the base chakra. And there in the base chakra, the pressures there pushes the Shakti consciousness into a dormant state of which we call Kundalini. It's called a 3.5 knot, I call it a 3.5 energy configuration, because there over 90% of the Shakti consciousness goes dormant. And the ancient scripts described as when it goes dormant, it releases the Shiva. Of course, Shiva is like the absolute. Is the opposite, or not the exact opposite, but is the opposite of Shakti power, right? Because Shakti comes from Shiva. Shiva is God, is absolute, is all power, is the endless potential, you know. So what happens when it moves from one equilibrium at the crown chakra down to the next equilibrium, which is the base of the chakra, it reveals this Shiva. It goes into this dormant state, almost unmanifested, and it releases the Shiva. Now, when it released the Shiva, it released a sound, and the sound, they describe it as the Kundalini sings the celestial song, and when it sings the celestial song, it creates what we call the nadis, and the nadis move up from this base of the spine and create 242,000 pathways of flowing energy, which intersects at each major chakra along the spine, and it intersects through the chakra petals. So it actually goes through the chakra petals. And here's a diagram. Let's look at this. It's not the best, but it's what we have. Right here, if you could see, this is a stream of nadis, representing a nadis. It actually passed through the chakra petals. All the nadis that come from Kundalini, it goes up, and when it reaches each one of these different chakras, it actually passed through the nadis, the chakra nadis, the chakra petals, and it's called a nadi knot. It forms a nadi knot at each level, and from there, from there it goes all the way up to the Christ center or the third eye, and it terminates there, which is the command center. By the time it reaches the throat chakra, the physical world is created. Because at the solar plexus chakra, at the solar plexus chakra, the energy begins to formate into certain patterns. By the time it reaches the heart chakra, the subtle bodies are created. You have the mental bodies. You have you have the mental bodies. You have the pranic bodies. You have the etheric body, and the astral body it is formed, which holds consciousness. But when it goes to the throat center, you can have not only these subtle bodies, but you can have physical subtle bodies and gross physical bodies. In other words, you can move, the soul can then move through incarnations or reincarnations. It can begin to reincarnate itself many, many times. It lives on the physical plane as this gross physical plane, and then we die and we move to a subtle physical plane too, and then we die from there and we're born back here on this physical plane, and it continues until it gains all the necessary experience in order to ascend. In order for the consciousness to merge back with the super consciousness, and the super conscious merge back with the supra consciousness, which is a soul type level of consciousness. Yeah.
Does only Kundalini flow through the nadis? Do the Buddhas flow through the nadis as well? Are the Prana'S?
Yeah, because what did the soul use to create the Shakti power?
It pulls upon it.
Huh?
It pulls upon it.
Yeah. So the Kundalini is a combination of all of that. All right, and it's used, in my opinion, is used to, although you have all the necessary energy to run the body within the body, but this is like it primes the well in a sense. When it goes through the different chakras and through the chakra petals, it creates a vortex. That's what happens when this energy comes flourishing through it. It creates some type of vortex, and it sucks in mental energy and subtle cosmic energy through it in order to turn it on, in order to turn these bodies on, in order to experience life on the outside. So it not only has this subtle energy within it, it pulls subtle energy within the chakras and push certain subtle energies out of the chakra, and then we have our experiences. And that's how you have what's called a Manas effect. Because we live in a sea of mind, which called chitta. In that book, in most Hindu texts and some Buddhist texts, we live in this sea of mind energy. And that's the only way we exist, because what does mind energy do? Mind energy mold and shapes what? Yeah, prana and matter. It molds and shapes it. So you cannot have something in existence without mind, because mind impresses everything. It shapes and molds, gives it its design. And this building is a product of mind. A chair is a product of mind. All these machines is a product of mind, because it was molded and shaped by someone's mind in order to operate properly. It found out the laws of nature that governs everything, and it placed everything in order and produced it into this existence. So that's what happened. We live in the sea of mind, and then when we take this mind into us, when we take this universal mind into us, it's, in a sense, contaminated, and it becomes manas. It becomes chitta, this universal mind that was manipulated or changed into a lower state of mind called manas, because it was touched by man or human, and then we pollute our environment, and we create the conditions in which we live in, which this whole chaotic world that we live in is because we live in the sea of our own minus. So things have to happen in order to get back to a perfect state of operation, meaning that we must change our minds, we must live right, we must adopt certain principles in order to live among each other in a civil world. Until we clean up the minus, we'll continue to go through and repeat certain experiences over and over and over. So the aura around the body is like a devic laboratory, producing the correct environment that you need to stay in and you need to live through and gain experience from. So that's one of the things. So yes, you pull this Mahabhutas in, the same way you pull the 5 major Prana'S in, the same way you pull the mind substance in, but you release it back in the world, either partially contaminated or fully contaminated, or if you live in a higher state of mind, you add a greater quality to it, to the minus that you live in.
I think it's Abbas that permeates the whole body.
Is what?
Is it Abbas that permeates the whole
Yes.
body? So that travels through the nadis as well.
Yes. All of them do, to a certain extent. Okay, and you got to go back. The 5 major Prana'S, which is Udana, Prana, Samanta, and Apana, and Vyana, they mirror the Mahabhutas. The only difference is that this is the prana that feeds the physical and auric bodies. I mean, the auric bodies and the physical body and the astral body, and the etheric body to a certain extent too. Okay, but it's a lower form of prana than the cosmic part, because remember the Mahabhutas start on a cosmic level, and although prana travels throughout the universe now, but when it comes through the solar logos of this planet, which is in the text there, it reads as the Maha, as the Vishnu, Maha Bindu, that means the sun. The prana travels from a universal, from this absolute state and comes through this solar logos of Vishnu, right? And it's pushed out into the 5 major Prana'S that can serve us, that can best serve us and any planets within its orbit, right? That's living within that tavic matter, or what they call the solar plasma. They call it tavic matter. Okay, so it is, that's how it works. So you have the cosmic level of prana, then the solar level of prana, then you have the planetary level of prana. Okay, because once the prana enters the planet, it takes on a different function, right? Because it goes and it produces another set of Prana'S, right? Called the minor Prana'S, which helps to sustain the physical body. The minor Prana'S do, all right? So it is, you have these different levels of prana. As the Shakti power moves, it modifies itself into different levels of operation. Okay. So any questions?
He talks about the indriyas, the senses.
Mm-hmm. Did you bring my water in? You didn't bring my water. No, you didn't. No, I left it in the car. Yeah, but it'll be all right. No, it'll be all right. I can wait. Well, until you get to that, let's go. Once the embodied, because we own embodied consciousness, right?
Yes.
Once the soul is entrapped into this body, into this astral body and physical body, and have to go through the samsaras, which is one creation, one reincarnation after another, in order to cleanse itself again. What happens is that you have impurity traits, especially entering the human race. You have these impurity traits lodged within the lower chakras that we have to overcome. And the ancient Hindus, they listed these in Sanskrit terms, but I translated it into English terms so that we can kind of understand it. It's listed as desire, anger, greed, delusion, pride, attachment, hatred, passion, malice, jealousy. These things are the things that hold us back and have us to constantly reincarnate, and because we display these traits within us. So, yeah.
Why passion would be one of them?
Because all the rest of them lead us to use passion in the wrong way. In other words, so let's say, thanks.
Speaks like a dude, right?
Yeah. So what happens is that usually we're not passionate enough in the proper way. In other words, like say you might be passionate to one group of people, but not passionate to another group. And that's where passion is used wrong, you know. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is. We tend to be born in a certain race, and we're passionate about that race and that genealogy, and we're not passionate about the rest of the world. So that's where those things can go wrong at. But all of us, the human race is one race. All life on earth is one race. The Buddhists in the Buddhist temples and some of the ancient Hindu temples too, you wasn't allowed to even kill a bug, in order to teach them that type of passion, passionate feelings for everything. They looked at a leaf as alive. They looked at this table as being alive. They looked at everything around them as being alive, and that you must care for it the same way you care for anything else, because it's there to gain experience. So the way you use it, the way you handle it is very important. So, but in the Hindu teachings or the ancient teachings, because it's for the whole world, it's really not just for Hindus, we were given the 8 limbs of yoga by Patanjali. And in the eight limbs of yoga, the first one was control. As simple as that, which was yama. And it was used to control these traits here, these impurity traits that permeate from the lower chakras. Now you got to remember that the lower chakras, these chakras is where man's consciousness reside right now. Man's consciousness actually resides, and he operates mostly from the base chakra and the sex chakra, and a little from the solar plexus chakra, in the sense that if you look at everything that we have invented around us and everything that we use, it relates back to that state of mind, you know, and it relates back to how our body functions work, in a sense too. In the sense that if I wanted to, when I want to turn this on, what do? I take a male plug and place it into a receptacle, electrical receptacle, which is a female receptacle, in order to generate power. Okay, so our minds operate like that. We operate on this positive, negative type thing. You know, when we go to build things, what do? We tear something down in order to build it up again, in order to mold and shape it in the way we want. And we create tremendous waste in doing that, because that's the way our minds operate, because we work from these levels of consciousness. So we always tearing something down in order to build something. And in the process, we create chaos around us and tremendous waste around us, yeah.
Yesterday I was reading, I think it's Sri Tishwa, but somebody wrote it about him.
Mm.
They're talking about the solar, like the solar orbit with the sun orbits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so is that why our consciousness is residing at that level, because of where the sun is currently at in that cycle?
It's where Earth is within the solar level, in other words. And when the Earth began to move its position in order to house a different level of consciousness, then it will shift the way it orbits around the sun. First there'll be a subtle movement, then an etheric movement, then a physical movement. You know, it may take hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know. You've seen you was here when we went over the ages, the yolks.
Yeah, I was just really confused because he was saying that it was 432,000 years was a miscalculation, and actually 12,000 years.
Well, some of them say that, but I don't know if Uteshwa said that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was some guy that
Yeah.
said it after.
Yeah, some of them say that because some of them try to take that calendar and relate it back to the zodiac calendar. But when you look at the zodiac calendar, when you take the zodiac calendar and place it to the Hindu calculation of that, it's the same, really. The zodiac calendar just go into more minor cycles. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just
Because the zodiac calendar is like 25,000 years. You know.
12,000 years thing didn't make sense to me because I don't think those, like the golden age and all those things could come so fast, right?
No.
3,000 years, like just looking at our own history,
Yeah.
we can see the advancements in, like he was trying to make the analogy between electricity, when we found electricity, how these were kind of supposed to parallel where the
Well, a lot of that's been disputed because they found electric batteries 200,000 years old.
Yeah, which would support the orbit.
So and then they also it's not only in the pyramids. They found it.
That's the only place where we can see the depictions.
Well, what I'm talking about,
Written depiction,
they
but
actually,
the actual, right.
but they actually found like a cup, and where they dipped something into it, but they and some type of liquid, and it produced electrical charge, right? And they found several of those in the ruins. So so it throws the whole timetable thing off. So and then all the artifacts they found throughout Africa, throughout South America, they can't even date it. I mean, they know that it's ancient, but, they really can't give a date to it. And I mean, like pictures of aircrafts. I mean, and this, this stuff has been talked about for 30, 40, 50, 70 years of their findings. They found that back at the turn of the century. And it was actually talked about in Madame Blavatsky's book in 1872. Then it was in the 1920s and 30s, they actually found physical evidence, supporting her findings way back well, she wrote the book in 1872, but she did the world tour back in, I guess, between 50s and 60s, 1850s and 60s. So, I mean, it's ridiculous, that they would try to, in my opinion, try to shrink that calendar. And see, the conquerors always do that anyway, they want to try to move away and create their whole timeline to associate it with their, with their special interest group. But it doesn't make sense. So in Raja Yoga, you have yama, which means control, which is the first limb, in which you try to bring about control over these traits, these impurity traits, and then you have the second limb, which is observance of which is niyama, which is the observance of a higher power or whatever, or God or whatever, the law, the law of karma, to help you control, yourself. Then you have asana. This is asana, right? This is the third one, and that brings about, that gives you the knowledge of positioning your body in a certain way in order to allow a higher state of consciousness to enter. And then you have the fourth limb. Who knows what the fourth limb is? Come on, you guys. No, it's not pranayama. It's the withdrawal of senses, pratyahara. Is you then, after you have controlled your passions, control your desires, control your lust, control all these things, when you have some type of control where you can turn it on and off, then and you recognize God in everything through niyama, and you have positioned yourself in order to have a higher state of consciousness, you move into withdrawing your senses into the body in order to recognize the presence of God within the body. And then the fifth one is what? Or is the fourth one pranayama, then the fifth one is withdrawal of senses? The fourth one is pranayama, then the fifth one is withdrawal of senses. Pranayama is what? What is pranayama? The control of the vital life force, which is not only which is not only breath, is what? Huh? Yeah, it's the mind too, but it's not. But you want to control the vital life forces. What is it? Huh? Yeah, but no. How do you take prana into the body?
Drinking, eating, and breathing.
Okay. The control of pranayama. Okay. You take in prana through the body through drinking, eating, and breath. The most important is your breath. And then you move to withdraw the senses, okay? After you move to withdraw the senses, then what happens? What's the sixth? You go into concentration. Concentration is being able to, once you have learned to withdraw the senses, you can do what? You can channel the mind down one direction, right? Concentration is being able to take your mind down one direction of what you're concentrating on, right? So that gives you access. You're trying to build an access road to the all-knowledge space, okay? And from there, because we want to reach this all-knowledge space level right here, all right? So what is the seventh limb? Contemplation. So what is contemplation?
Where you start to join your consciousness with the object upon which you're concentrating. Your aura takes on, you receive messages and understand
You
two
merge
ways
the
that item.
physical, astral, etheric senses.
Yes. You merge the physical, astral, and etheric senses, but that's on different levels. What? So you have 5 known physical senses, right? You really have 10. But then in the Hindu teachings, we teach, in the Hindu and the Buddhist, we teach 10 senses. You merge those 10 senses with the 10 astral senses, right? And you have what? You have contemplation. Because when you begin to direct your mind down one channel, one channel of thought, that concentrated level of mind begins to pull magnetically on the universal mind that we live, that all of us live in. And you begin to receive knowledge and information on things you had no way of knowing. You know, it's almost your body or your mind or whatever becomes this Wi-Fi they can tap into the universal Wi-Fi. And you begin to receive this type of information, you know, in an orderly manner through your senses. And this really is where psychic senses come into play. And when you gain the psychic senses, you begin to practice what they call samyama, and where you study everything you can using that contemplative type mind. So after a while, you'll be able to touch something and you receive information from that. You'll begin to look at someone and receive information from it. And you put that through the same process that you put everything else. You control it. You do not allow your basic emotions to turn you, because the psychic world is a field of obstacles, and it has a bunch of confusion connected to it. It has ego connected to it. It has a whole different level of impurity traits connected to it. So you have to control yourself through this mind field of psychic energy. It makes you sexually active. It brings out a lot of negative stuff that's tied down into your auric body as what we call samskaras. And samskaras is things that you experience throughout your many lifetimes that's embedded in your aura, just waiting for the proper time to come about. And when you have this burst of psychic energy rush through your body, it flushes up these samskaras. And now you have this newfound power, and you feel, well, you can operate and control this passion with the psychic power, which brings you to a whole nother level of control. So you have to resist all those things and push through if you want to get to that perfect flow of all knowledge space, where you want to connect with the absolute. So that's a whole period that you have to go through and reject the psychic energy, the psychic powers, but you have to control it before you reject it. You can't just reject it right away. You have to go through the trial and error of your psychic life. And then once you get to a level, you're not only merging the astral, you have merged the astral and physical senses together, and you have produced psychic senses. Now you take the psychic senses and merge it with the etheric senses, which is a higher, a more subtle body within the physical body, within the auric body. And those senses work on the higher level, on the higher chakras of the heart, the throat, and the Christ chakra. And by then you should have control. You should have control. And by then you should have the ability to concentrate on one thing for many, 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 many hours. So by then you gain the power, you gain the ability to focus down on the Kundalini at this level and pull and unravel the Kundalini and push it back up Sushumna. In other words, within the nadis of the body, the nadis is 242,000 pathways of mind energy and vital energy running through your body. With the power of Kundalini and contemplation, you should be able to drain that energy out of those nadis and push it down to the base of the spine and wake up the 3.5 knot, the Kundalini, and channel all that energy back up the Brahmanati within Sushumna. In other words, break through the door that's been held there, because it is that 3.5 knot that blocks the passageway, so that you cannot enter, so that your consciousness cannot enter those higher states of mind. So the teachings teach us that you drain this energy back down. It is the key to unravel, to untie the knot, and then you can push the energy back up through Sushumna and open each chakra completely and gain all the knowledge and wisdom. But you cannot do that if you don't have the proper control. And at that point, you can enter into the all-knowledge space. So that is essentially the embodied consciousness. That's the whole goal of understanding the embodied consciousness. How you got to the embodied consciousness and how you get out of the embodied consciousness. Now, when you move this energy out of the nadis and you go into this deep state, at that point you're going into meditation, because now you have went into contemplation, which is merging the higher senses together in order to create psychic powers, and then advanced psychic powers, and then higher states of consciousness. Meditation is taking concentration and contemplation and becoming one with that thing that you are concentrating, contemplating on. That is meditation. In other words, if you was meditating on this, or you was concentrating on this chair, and then you went into a state of contemplation on the chair where you learn all the molecular structure of this particular chair. Well, then in meditation, you become one with the chair. And you become one with the mind field of the chair. You know the chair. You and the chair are one. And that is that universal type of God experience, God-like consciousness that everything shares. You become one with. That's meditation. And in meditation, when you can drain the body of the, and concentrate all the energies in one spot within the body, that is at that level that you go into, on the physical level, you go into a conscious state of death. Because wherever you have drained wherever you have pulled the Kundalini from, everything below that is dead. All the way up until you pull it to whatever level, whether it's the physical level, the sex level, the solar plexus level, the heart level, or even the throat level, or the Christ level. And a warm stream of energy is left within, on the top of the head, and which ascends down through in order to stop the body from going into a complete, to stop what they call rigor mortis from setting in. But you're in a conscious state of death because you have taken your consciousness to a higher superconscious state. So the basic consciousness that normally runs the body have been removed to a higher state. So that's what embodied consciousness is, and how you get there, how you come out of it. And that's the only reason why we are here on Earth, is to gain control over those energies, over those that Kundalini energy. Yeah.
So is it only in meditation where the veil of mind is lifted, or begins to be lifted?
The veil of Maya begins to unravel at the basics level. And because if you develop your concentration in a proper way, you begin to break that veil then. So it begins at an early level. All right.
So in the book, he says that sensing is not a function of the organ, but a function of mind.
Yeah.
So when we're withdrawing the senses then into mind from the physical, from the bodies, is it that we're putting the body in like a relaxed or kind of off state, the physical body off state?
Well, what you're really doing is that the sense organs that we use has a level of distortion to it because it was made imperfectly, in a sense. It was made to operate on a certain level. So when you withdraw the senses out of that, you begin to recognize other layers of so-called reality, in other words. You understand that? Like, if you was to study this camera and you look at it physically, right? But then you say, okay, I want to really study this. So on a physical level, you're captivated by the container that it's in. But when you withdraw your senses to look at the mechanics of it, what happens? You understand why the physical exists. Because the physical casing of it distorted your perception of it. Then you learn that there's layers and layers of science connected to that. You begin to understand that these mechanisms tap into the electronic magnetic spectrum, and there's a millisecond of light and all this, and you begin to understand all the different things about it. That is a real science, right? So our physical senses it only shows us a small part of the spectrum of things. So that's why we have to go to the mental level in order to see a greater portion of it. And there's many levels in the mental world for us to look through. And that's what yoga is about. The word yoga means union with God. you know. So we have to make union with God through the various yogas, you know, to these systems of operations, these systems of development, so that we can begin to break the illusion, you know, of life that we see through our physical eyes and experience through our physical body.
Is it best to have a merging of the physical and etheric senses first before trying etheric projection? Or control for the physical and etheric senses?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to do it, because you won't get to etheric projection, I don't think, until you control a level of those impurities and you control the astral body. If anyone did astral projection in here, who all did astral projection? You? And no one else? Huh? When you do astral projection, the first thing you notice, you don't have control. You know, you project from your body and you bounce like a ball from one experience to another. And most people have had some type of astral projection, but they look at it as a dream. Because,
Are you talking about whether or not it's controlled or uncontrolled?
yeah, I'm saying in the sense that when you don't have control over that level of mind, that astral mind, you project from the body. You'll be lucky if you project and then you see your body laying there. You'll be lucky if that happened, right? But what happens, you project and then you find yourself at some function that you like going to, or some place that the body craves. And then once you have got a feel of that, you'll find yourself moving somewhere else. And the only thing you can see of the terrain is just screams of color. It's a whole blotch of color because you're moving so quick. You can't make out the surrounding areas because the astral body moves very, very quick. And then all of a sudden, bang, you're there, maybe on the other side of the county, maybe on the other side of the city, or maybe the other side of the world. And then you take it in that, but you have no control. When you have the ability to concentrate and contemplate, you can make a subtle physical projection and regain consciousness, where you step out of the body, you turn around and look at the body in this sleep mode. And then you direct your astral or your astral body or subtle body to wherever you want to go. And then you can go there and experience what's going on there, get all the information. If you can hold your consciousness without thinking, because once you think about something else, once you get a craving for something else, the astral body is going to jump and go to that next place. But when you can control your astral body, you the same way you do your physical body, you can go. Well, some of us, we don't have the control over our physical body. We have a desire to do something, we jump up and go do it, without looking at the list of things we have to do, we have to complete at home or on our job or whatever. But the astral world is the world of desire. It's the world of emotion and desire. So in bringing about astral projection, that's what you experience immediately. But it is the control of your senses that allows you to control the astral body. Once you have control over those basic traits, you can move the astral body where you want to go. So.
Is the astral realms the realms where Manas is the greatest concentration?
Well, Manas is the greatest concentration on the lower realms, from the solar plexus down to the foot. It's his greatest concentration there,
But I don't know, like astral projection, what's the difference between imagining it and actually legitimately doing it?
You'll know the difference. With your imagination, you control your imagination. If you want to, there's a lot of different mystic practices that use imagination. When you imagine something, you actually molding and shaping mental and vital energy into whatever you imagine. You have created that within your aura, within your realm of living, and you actually experiencing that, and you control that, because you can step out of imagination and go where you want to go. When you astral project, a part of your consciousness have left the auric field. The auric field is like made a split, some type of mitosis or something. It's split and it goes, it sends a part of it. It's always connected to the aura, because if it loses that connection, it dies. But it goes out and it experiences things somewhere else. If you don't have concentrated, contemplative type control over the mind and the emotions and body, then you won't have control over the astral thing. Although when you're in a projection state, you touch this wall, you feel the wall. You'll know that's the difference. You touch something, it's solid. In your imagination state, you don't have that sensation. But in the astral projection state, you have that sensation. In a highly, highly visionary state of imagination, which is not even imagination at a point, imagination is just a component of it, you have that, like you have a vision of something that's to come, right? Your consciousness have stepped forward and seen how a future event is going to turn out. That's a vision. You have that the sensory is in place. It's solid. You can feel the sunlight on the face. You can taste. You have taste buds, because you're actually seeing something that's going to happen. In a lot of cases, that's another thing. But you have, that's real. That's a vision. It's not a dream. It's not imagination. It's real. So that's the difference. Imagination is a tool in order to gain control over concentration and contemplation. You use imagination as a tool to develop your mind. So. Any other questions? Any questions from online?
Yeah, I was going to read it. Basically that, in senses of functions of mind, I'm just saying something in the hypnosis could see or hear
You going to read it or not? You found it?
Yeah, I found it. There's like 2 or 3 parts, but I already asked a question. I'll read it. Bishop D8, but there exists also, second sentence, but there exists also general elements of particulars of sense perception. That general ideas may be formed of particular sense objects indicates, it is said, their existence in some parts of the Jiva's nature as facts of experience. Otherwise, the generals could not be formed from the particulars given by the senses as the physical facts of experience. This general is called the Tanmantra, which means the mere thatness or abstract quality of an object. Thus, the Tanmantra of a sound, Sakta Tanmantra, is not any particular sensible form of it, but the thatness of that sound, that is, that sound apart from any of its particular variations stated. The Tanmantras have therefore aptly been called the generals of the sense particulars, that is, the general elements of sense perception. These necessarily come into existence when the senses, indriya, are produced, or a sense necessitates something which can be the object of sensation. These sukshma, subtle bhutas, as they are also called, are not ordinarily themselves perceived, for they are supersensitive. Their existence is only mentally perceived through the gross particular objects of which they are the generals, and which proceed from them. They can be the objects of immediate perception only to yogis. They are only the gross sense objects derived from them, 5 in number, namely sound, sabda tanmatra, touch and feel, sparsa tanmatra, color and form, rupa tanmatra, flavor, rasa tanmatra, and odor, gandha tanmatra, as universals. Each of these evolves from that which precedes it. And is that where I got the question? They can only be perceived by yogis. That's what I was asking. Is it do we withdraw the senses that you can perceive the 10 mantras?
Aren't you glad I'm here?
Yes.
Because you won't even understand all of that. It was it's too much, right? Yeah, and I gave you the answer for that already. Yeah.
Part 2 was next paragraph, it goes into the 10 senses. Then the second paragraph on page 59, the indriya or sense is not the physical organ, but the faculty of mind operating through that organ as its instrument. The outward sense organs are the usual means whereby on the physical plane the functions of hearing and so forth are accomplished, but as they are mere instruments and their power is derived from the mind, a yogi may accomplish by the mind only all that may be done by means of the physical organs without the use of the latter. With reference to their physical manifestations, but not as they are in themselves, the classes into which the indriya are divided may be described as a sensory and motor nervous system. As the indriyas are not the physical organs, such as ear, eye, and so forth, but faculties of the jiva desiring to know and act by their aid, the yogi claims to accomplish without the use of the latter all that is ordinarily done by their means. So a hypnotized subject can perceive things even when no use of the special physical organs ordinarily necessary for their purpose is made. The fact of there being variety of actions does not necessarily involve the same number of indriyas. An act of going done by means of a hand, as by a cripple, is to be regarded really as the operation of the indriya of feet, even though the hand is the seat of the indriya or handling. By the instrumentality of these indriyas, things are perceived and action is taken with reference to them. The indriyas are not, however, sufficient in themselves for this purpose. In the first place, unless attention, alokana, cooperates, there is no sensation at all. To be absent-minded is not to know what is happening. Attention must therefore cooperate with the senses before the latter can give the experiencer anything at all. Attention meaning will, right? Or could will be another way of describing attention?
Yeah.
Nextly, at one and the same moment, the experiencer is subject to receive a countless number of sensations which come to and press upon him from all sides. In any of these is to be the exclusion of others. The process of experience is the selection of a special section from out of a general whole, and then being engaged on it, so as to make it its own, either as a particular object of thought or particular field of operation.
And we went over all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, he talks about feelings, right? What did I tell you about feelings? Anyone remember? Is it 2 L's in feelings? Well, I'm not a speller. That's one, yeah.
Is it that they were a manifestation of divine will?
Yeah, and because feelings is what? It's above what?
Conscious mind?
It's above consciousness. Okay? Feelings is actually distorted by consciousness. So.
You feel something and then you tell yourself, you rationalize that that's not.
Yeah, but even from a higher level, like you were saying, why you was asking why passion was there, right? Because feelings in the higher states of intelligence of the soul loves everyone. The spirit loves everyone, right? That's a feeling. It's an expressed divine feeling to care for everything in existence because it realizes that it's connected to everything as well. So to hurt anything is hurting yourself. So feelings is actually above any type of consciousness. Remember, consciousness is a limitation. Okay, we enter a body of consciousness. The soul creates these bodies of consciousness for itself in order to limit its expression, in order to gain experience, what he was just reading there. So to go through these series of experience. But before the soul did all of that, the feelings of the soul was universal. It had a universal love, it still does, but it has this higher state of feelings for everything because it's connected to everything. So through consciousness, we lower our sense of feel, our passion, our desire to help everyone. So remember that when people start talking about feelings is actually above consciousness itself. If that's everything, we can close out. If there's no more questions.
Like, with feelings, you may hear people feel so angry, so mad, when they speak about different types of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's above consciousness, but it's also, like you said, distorted through consciousness.
Mm-hmm. You what now?
You said the feelings are above consciousness.
Yeah.
Consciousness also can distort feelings,
Yeah.
right? So when a person is feeling something, it doesn't matter, like, okay, let's talk about negative feelings. So if
Mhm.
a person's in, rage or they're angry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they may be feeling that way because they went through an experience and the way they're viewing it, it's distorted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they're feeling that.
Yeah.
Because they are not connected to the whole. If they was connected to the whole, they would feel the pain of the person that pained them, or supposedly had pained them.
So it's not to say just because someone's feeling something that's above consciousness, that's, oh, I should go in this direction. You know what I'm saying? Like the feeling is distorted.
Yeah, most of our feelings are distorted. And that's why we have to step out of this basic level of consciousness in order to look at things in a proper order. Because normally when we feeling smited or we have this basic feeling, it's a distortion from us.
But something that I've noticed a lot, like with the New Age,
Mm-hmm.
they're guided a lot by their, oh, I feel this way, so I'm going to do that. But I'm like, hold on, but this is being distorted. You really have to sit back and, why am I feeling this way and work on that,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And if they do that, they'll be able to manipulate the power better.
Sit back and
Yeah.
analyze it.
And sit back and analyze it. Yeah. And they know what the origin of that, where it came from, why it's creating this formation and why it's making me feel in this way or this basic way or whatever.
People are highly manipulated by that. Oh, I feel this. I'm going to move toward that direction or
Mhm.
act out in this way. And I'm like,
Yeah.
He goes into at the end, sleeping, dreaming states.
Mm-hmm. But sleeping, dreaming, and waking state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of just rolling into a person.
That's connected with the gonads. The gonads, right? Yeah.
So those states of consciousness reflects from the gunas.
Yeah.
okay, is it on that?
Y
The stage are on?
80.
And we almost have to go into those states in order to, so that we don't go into a psychotic break, you know.
Isn't that a function of the minor panas?
Huh?
Isn't that a function of the
Yes,
minor panas?
yeah,
So at a certain point, we won't need to sleep.
yeah. But if not, in this level, you create psychotic breaks. You know, it's just like in a computer, you need partition walls, right? So, but that's, you know, that's what happens in the mind.
Well, my main question was the fourth and fifth states. I'll start with the third. Page 8. The third state, or that of dreamless sleep, susupti,
Don't try to pronounce.
is defined which is neither waking nor dreaming, and in which the varied experiences of the two former states are merged into a single experience, as the variety of the day is lost in the night, without the extinction of such variety. Consciousness is not objective nor subjective, but a simple, undifferentiated consciousness without an object other than itself. In waking, the jiva consciousness is associated with mind and senses. In dreaming, the senses are withdrawn. In dreamless slumber, mind is also. In dreaming, the senses are withdrawn. In dreamless slumber, mind also is withdrawn. The jiva called prajna
Jiva or Java is embodied consciousness, so everybody knows.
is formed being merged in his casual body, that is, inseparably associated with consciousness, that is, with the state of consciousness, which is the seed from which the subtle and gross bodies grow. The state is one of bliss. The jiva is not conscious of anything, but on awakening perceives only the notion, happily I slept, I was not conscious of anything. This state is accordingly that which has its object the sense of nothingness. Whilst the two former states enjoy the gross and subtle objects respectively, this is the enjoyer of bliss only. That is, simple bliss without an object. The Lord is always the enjoyer of bliss, but in the first two states, he enjoys bliss through objects. Here, he enjoys bliss itself, free from both subject and object. In this way, the Supti state approaches the Brahma consciousness, but it is not that in its purity, because it is, as the other two states are both associated with ignorance. The first two with Vikriti, the last with Prakriti. Beyond therefore is named the fourth, and here the pure experience called Sutta Vidya is acquired through Samadhi Yoga. Jiva is in the Supti state. Supti state is said to be in the casual Varna body, and Jiva in the Turiya state is said to be in the great casual body, Mahakarna body. So the fourth state is concentration. Contemplation.
I don't know.
Well, he says here, he calls it Samadhi Yoga, but that's what it sounds like. It's a
When they say when they talk about samadhi, they're mostly talking about a contemplative state, I think.
Sounds like it's saying you cannot, like the three previous ones are things that you do unconsciously, and the one that is unconscious resembles that Brahman consciousness, but it isn't it, because it's not
getting
pure,
close to it.
right? And it's associated with ignorance. So
Mhm.
the other one, the Shuddha Vidya, is the one that you get through Samadhi Yoga because it's purified. It's free of that ignorance. So it approaches that Brahman consciousness.
That's a more active
Mhm.
state.
Right. That's
So that is and from there he goes into thymus and all of that, right?
Well, he goes into the fifth state, which sounds like meditation, or cosmic consciousness,
firmness in the fourth.
which is attained here. The Ishvara Tattva is attained. This is Umesa state. This is the Umesa state of consciousness, of which that Tattva is the Nimesa. Passing beyond the spotless one attains the highest equality and is merged in the supreme Shiva. That sounds like meditation.
Now, one day we'll go into, there's like 4 or 5 states of meditation or samadhi. One day I'll go into it. Well, 4 or 5 major states of samadhi. Meditation, which leads to samadhi. There's any other questions?
Just a comment. Just to give the teacher the heads up, doesn't mean to keep him alive. You should check with Dr. William Davis's work and stop eating wheat.
Stop what?
Stop eating wheat.
Stop eating meat?
Wheat.
Wheat? I don't eat much wheat.
They want to keep you alive.
I eat very little wheat. So they'll know that. Did we go over this? Did we?
We started. I believe we finished it.
This right here, right?
Were we at 7? Like, it was a class we were going through each one, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's close out with a prayer.